Crbnly conversation.
Quick question. Is this the podcast? Are we doing the podcast right now?
Hello, everyone. Shane here. Welcome to a special episode of Crbnly Conversations. Today, we're going to unpack two distinct approaches to improve American recycling rates and actually getting the right item in the right waste stream, because we know that can be a little confusing sometimes. And we'll split the conversation into two streams ourselves.
Bada bing.
Before we dig into it, we want to remind our listeners that we are a podcast where friends examine the intersection of community, lifestyles, and consumption in our lives. We've created this in the hope to share our stories and curiosity to motivate actions that lessen our carbon footprints. And we want to use our platform to create a space for listeners, community members to share their Crbnly journeys as well. And please never forget, whether you're a first-timer, Crbnly deep diver, or just one of our loyal fans, we've made it easy to listen to us on your favorite podcast app and also watch our episodes on video via YouTube. Literally, all you need to do is scroll down, click on show notes, or find show notes, and click on find and join the conversation. There you'll be able to explore all of our conversations and catch our future episodes, which we release every Wednesday, and listen to that on your favorite podcast app. So, also, we are kind of rocking the social medias right now. So please support, find, and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, whichever one of those apps that you frequently use. Give us a little shout out, follow us, share with friends and family. We really, really appreciate that. And let's get today's Crbnly conversation going. What do we have on the docket, Chad?
Well, pal, for me, I think for you, for many of us, we're in reflection mode post-Halloween, plus maybe like a little guiltiness of all that candy. How do we recycle it? Did I eat too much? I don't know about you, but I did avoid the clearance candy shelves in my local CVS and Target. I really wanted to go in there, but I didn't. So big wins there. But in this reflection mode, and then thinking through prior conversations we've had about how to have a Crbnly life during the holidays, which, I mean, we've explored extensively with, from the additional things that are created that go in the waste stream, to all that extra food waste, to that traveling. Like, there's just a big impact on the environment for us to have a great time with friends and family, or not so great time with friends or family, depending on your holiday disposition. But all that thinking and reflection routed us back to the reduce, reuse, and recycle mantra, which we pretty much disguise conveniently and confidently as Crbnly conversations. And we narrowed down because we wanted to have two conversations here about recycling, because there was a couple updates that hit our radar here in the last month. And for those that have known, we've talked about different ways about robots and local waste stream projects and just how hard it is to get recycling right. I think we all learned a lot when we talked about what do those numbers on the plastics actually mean. So with all that being said, in my rambling recycling intro, we have two topics. One we're going to cover in topic A, and then we'll create another episode and create for topic B. But topic A for today is, who should bear the brunt of solving our recycling problems? The consumers or producers? Like, should we make it easier for us to know how to recycle? Should the producers just be making all their stuff out of recyclable components in the first place? Big existential capitalistic questions there. And then topic B, tech and robots. Will they use AI and sensors to, quote, get smart, sorting all of our waste appropriately, so we just don't have to? Like, is that another solution? My gut tells me after these two episodes, we'll probably think a little bit of both. But now that we've set this Crbnly table, Shane, I do have one question for you. Is there anything in the last week, maybe post-Halloween, that you learned or thought or did to be more carbonly?
Yeah. Yeah. You actually inspired me. You sent me some pictures of a local pumpkin
Yeah.
smash thing going on in your neighborhood where people could bring their Halloween pumpkins that, instead of throwing them out in the trash, and kind of polluting the landfill. Um, it seems like there was a space on that was created where people could bring it, and literally there was some tarps set up and people could have a little bit of fun, actually, instead of just
Mm-hmm.
turning it in, smashing the pumpkin. There was some kids having fun, from the pictures you sent. So that really was inspiring, to where I would like to copycat that next year and kind of do that here in my neighborhood with Franklinton Farms. I think it'll be a perfect event, especially with all the little kids that we have in the area.
Yeah, like that's literally when we walked by. We walked by it once in the morning when it was getting set up, and they had that whole area and all the compost bins ready, and they actually collected all the pumpkins from the park. That there was like a pumpkin Halloween fest on Hall
Mm.
for the kids to carve. There's some cool carvings there. Um, but then, yeah, when we came back later after the gym class, like all the kids are out there smashing pumpkins and jumping around, and there's just piles of it. But one thing distinctly sticks out. So I remember in our spooky sustainability, spooky
Mm-hmm.
Halloween Carbonly episode last week, you specifically called out, don't paint your pumpkins, don't
Yeah.
decorate them with like all this chemicals. And there on the table next to all the pumpkin smashing was like 2 or 3 pumpkins that were all painted and like, you know, just fancied up
Yeah.
for Halloween that weren't part of the gymboree of smashing. So good call out there, Shade.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. Like, so speaking about waste and sorting out waste, you want to introduce topic A?
Yeah. So I kind of like introduced topic A as like this capitalistic control over who's actually responsible for recycling. And you and I have covered this in the past. The EPA is very clear on their data. Americans consistently recycle about 32% of the waste
Mm-hmm.
stream. I mean, that may vary from year to year, but not by much. And that's been like that for 20, 30 years. And when you start to unpack these numbers, which we've done in the past, and I'll add a link in our useful resources, is that most of the things that get recycled that keep us at that 32%, it's like paper, cardboard. That's
Yeah.
easy. Most places have that already as a stream to be collected, and it's a lot easier to actually manage that. And then it's like metal cans, aluminum cans, because they have value. Those, I think, aluminum cans are just aluminum products. Like 90 some percent of everything gets like in the recycle stream. And then glass, I think, has a higher impact or a higher like rate of recycling. But it's plastics and all those designees of plastic. I think
Yep.
in this article we're going to quote a bunch. Axios said about 6% plastic reliably get recycled. So knowing that Americans are stubborn and kind of are in their ways, how do you start to impact that? And one approach that multiple outlets have reported on, there's like nonprofits built around this design, is companies should be responsible for the things they produce getting to the right recyclable or compost or reusable stream. Then we've highlighted different like and regenerative business practices in our episode there. We talked a lot about different ways businesses can do that
Mm-hmm.
and have been doing that. But when you just think about all this consumption, like we go to the grocery store and there's like how many yogurt containers and butter containers and milk cartons are there? Which ones are recyclable? Which ones aren't? And if we know consumers are about 32% likely to do it, and if producers are just continuously producing this stuff, like we could argue all day over who should do it
Yeah.
and who should be responsible for it. But in the end, like my back to the basics economics class tells me, like when you think about thinking all has to do with simplicity and knowledge and information is power. So if we made it a lot easier for consumers,
Yeah.
I think that's a good addition, and that's where I think we'll dive in here. Is that Axios reported out this interesting article in the last couple weeks that QR codes with hyperlocal recycling instructions, which I think is key, hyperlocal, will soon show up on your milk cartons, ice cream tubs, and more, meaning you'll be able to scan an item, type in your zip code, and see if it's eligible to go in the blue recycling bin. And the problem that I think they're really trying to solve for is just because a product says it's recyclable doesn't necessarily mean it's recyclable where you live.
Right.
Which was like quoted by someone who's the director of the Consumer Brand Association's Smart Label program, which is what the Axios article really dives into, is this nonprofit called Smart Label that's building brand partnerships with, well, we'll get to them here in a little bit, but like with multiple products that make sure the QR code just goes on whatever it is that you're trying to, whatever you buy, and then you can just scan it quickly and know if your waste stream refuse provider can actually do it. So that's a lot to unpack, Shane, but like, what's your take on that? How's that making you feel?
So, I mean, I think it's when it going back to the question of like whose responsibility is it? Definitely, I would say the brands, these brands, they have more responsibility because they're the ones making the product. They're the ones deciding: do we use glass? Do we use plastic packaging? Things like that. And then there's also responsibility on the consumer. Like if you've listened to any of our episodes, there's always options out there. I think that especially in America, we're so stuck in our ways of like what brands we buy and things like that. But our buying power, the power of the dollar speaks louder than anything. And if you truly aren't, if you're trying to be more carbonly and a specific brand that you support just refuses to use better materials or give better options when it comes to being able to recycle their products, then there's products out there that you can support. It's just taking the time. So it's taking the due diligence as a consumer to be like, okay, I don't like this anymore. What's the alternative to it? What else can I support that aligns with my carbonly journey?
Totally.
But I do, it is interesting, especially, they speak about like clothing retailers. Like, I think using the QR codes would definitely be a really positive change. Because it will help people take care of the clothes better to where they last longer. People want to wear them longer because that right there is like when it comes to clothing, it's not like you can just throw your old t-shirt into the recycling bin. So the way to be more carbonly when it comes to clothing is wearing it more, keeping it longer. So I think that would help, because I think we've all had that experience where we're like, we go to look at the tag, like, oh, how should I wash this or whatnot, and the tag is just faded away to where you can't read anything. You know what I mean? So I think that would be an interesting addition to some of the clothing brands.
Yeah. And they like so I've done, I took that article from Axios, dug into the Smart Label, the recycling partnership. There's just a lot of different like nonprofits around this supporting this supporting this to happen. And just like a quick list of brands that are already participating is like Unilever, which makes like most of like a third of the things you see in your Target or CVS or Walgreens. Horizon Organic is on the list as an early adopter. General Mills, like Pillsbury, Chex, Betty Crocker, like there's a lot of General Mills. But if you go specifically to the homepage, Smart Label homepage, they say that 102,000 individual products and over 1,010 brands are starting to use QR codes. And they actually have this quick search brand, retail brand, that has all 1,000 of them, I guess, listed. So mostly it looks like food. but like pick a brand. What's something that if you're at Kroger's, you would be buying in the snack aisle?
Yeah, so I was actually when we were prepping for this episode, I typed in Pepsi.
Okay.
Because yeah, I enjoy a nice ice cold Pepsi from time to time,
Oh, there it
and
is.
I mean it literally lists every option you can think of when it comes to the bottling of Pepsi.
Oh yeah. There you go. Yeah, which I mean, it does put the onus back on us to
Yeah,
go and find out more, but at least those, to your point, those QR codes will be there, especially on the plastic products, making it
yeah.
simpler and easier.
And what you mentioned also is like them. So eventually, I guess the goal of that is to, like you said, you can type in your zip code and it's hyper local to where it's like, oh, okay, you live in Columbus, Ohio. This is where you can, this is, you can, yes, you can recycle this. Or if it's a novelty product, maybe it'll give some options of like, you can take it to this place to have it recycled.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that kind of leads us into like the next section of this conversation is like, so maybe there isn't a QR code on your product and you actually don't really know because you never looked. Like, how do you
Yep.
find out, right? If you're like, I want to be more carbonly, I want to make sure I'm recycling the things that I can recycle in my refuse waste stream. It's like, how do you just go take that hour, 30 minutes to do a little bit more digging about your own shopping habits, or even more importantly, what is your municipality or your private garbage collecting, recycling collecting company is doing, right?
Mhm.
And we did a little bit, digging into that, and we'll list these websites. But there's three websites called one's called Recycle Sect. Oh my God, Recycle Sect. That'd be a cult based on recycling, I think. Recyclecheck.org. And I like that website a lot because it got this really cute mascot, Birdie, I think. It's like, hello, recycler, so glad you're here. Simple. They use AI, Chat GPT, to like, you can start asking it questions and it'll start helping you. There's they're connect they're connected to the Smart Label and other products. But their Instagram page is kind of fun. So they have a lot of some of these Crbnly tips that we've been having or been sharing around benefits recycling. How to recycle and green blue are another two. And those are really just good places like upskill your own Crbnly knowledge on recycling. But I
Yep.
think the simplest way for anyone listening to our podcast to find out, oh my God, where does my garbage go? How do they recycle it? What is being recycled? Just pull up your app, pull up your website, call it, like, because it's designed
Yeah.
so you just dial 311 and ask the question.
311.
Because 311 will point you in that direction to who and what, because all the waste services are connected there. And then
Yep.
all of a sudden you'll find out, like we've talked about, what's Waco, like, I don't know, dozens of times.
Yep.
And that's Shane's, Franklinton County municipality, like waste stream, sorter, collector, refuse, get rid of her provider, like
Yep.
just, the garbage collectors, recycling collectors. So I think if there's nothing you take from this episode today, Crbnly listeners, other than QR codes are showing up on your products, scan them, find out how and if they recycle, and B, 311 if you don't know.
311. Best friend. That's one of my
It'll
best
get you
friends.
going. Yeah, I know
I literally just in the past week, I could have said that in my Crbnly this week, but just in the past week, I've had them come out and pick up 2 piles of just random trash that people left in the alley, tires. Someone dumped like a dozen tires in the alley. Just yeah,
They could have called 311. They had to go there to dump them.
exactly.
They could have went to where the
Yep.
tires could have been collected.
Yep.
311 listeners. 311.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I feel like that's a good place to end. Topic A,
Yep.
who's responsible for this? In the end, like just commit those 30 minutes to learning a little bit more, get
That's it.
smarter, get that QR scanned,
Or
that
just
website
listen to
stays
us.
up.
Listen
Just
to our
listen to us.
episodes.
We'll
You know?
help you along the way. Yep, Shane. Well, how about we take like a well-needed break and come back and talk about topic B? Can robots make better recyclers than us? Maybe we shouldn't worry about any of this.
True.
Well, in that
See you
spirit,
next time.
see you next time. Have a great Carbonly week.